The first thing I did when I woke up was look for the bathroom. It doesn't exist.
In a Galilean village of the 1st century, the concept of a separate room with running water for your needs doesn't exist anywhere. What does exist is a hole in the ground behind the house, covered with a wooden plank. And no, there's no toilet paper. That won't be invented until the 14th century in China. According to archaeological records found in Qumran and Jerusalem, what they used was a handful of smooth stones, pieces of broken pottery called... The Romans called it a tersorium, and it was shared among all users of the public latrine. It was rinsed in a channel of vinegar water that ran along the latrine floor. One sponge for everyone. The results revealed eggs of intestinal worms, tapeworms, and other parasites in almost all samples. Parasitological studies led by Piers Mitchell from Cambridge University, published in 2016, and the scientific conclusion was that, despite their impressive aqueducts and public baths, the Roman sanitary system spread parasitic diseases instead of preventing them. Now the topic of water. See how they have to get it. In Galilee, an average family in the 1st century had no access to running water inside their home. Water was obtained from a communal well or from a cistern carved into the rock that collected rainwater. Excavations in Nazareth and Capernaum have revealed dozens of these domestic cisterns carved directly into the limestone. A full bath was an occasional event, not a daily routine. Water was such a valuable resource that wasting it, washing your entire body every day, would have been considered an act of irresponsibility. Sweat, dirt, and dust from daily labor simply accumulated on the skin for days. And soap? It didn't exist in the form we know it today. Soap as we use it, a chemical reaction between fats and an alkali, was not industrially manufactured in this region in the 1st century. What did exist were documented alternatives. The most common was olive oil. Records from the Talmud and the Mishnah describe the ritual cleaning process that consisted of rubbing the body with olive oil and then scraping the mixture of oil. The Greeks and Romans had been using this method for centuries, and the Jewish population of Palestine had partially adopted it. Another alternative was natron, a sodium carbonate mineral found naturally in dried lake beds, especially in Egypt.
Teeth were rubbed with a mixture of natron and plant ash, sometimes with aromatic herbs.
Toothbrushes didn't exist.
They used a small wooden stick from the Salvadora persica tree, called a miswak, which was chewed until the fibers opened up and formed a kind of natural brush.
The miswak appears mentioned in multiple historical records from the Middle East and is still used today in some communities. But the most surprising part of hygiene in this era wasn't what they lacked, but what they had that we've lost. The mikveh. It's a ritual immersion pool that Jewish law required in every community. Archaeological excavations have discovered more than 800 mikvaot, plural of mikveh, just in the Jerusalem region alone. These were not recreational baths. They were stone structures with carved steps that allowed complete body immersion in water that had to come from a natural source, either rain or a spring. The Mishnah, the code of Jewish law, compiled around the year 200, but collecting traditions from the 1st century, dedicated an entire It specified that the water had to have a minimum volume of 40 seah, approximately 760 liters.
It could not be stagnant water or water that had been transported in containers.
It had to arrive by gravity directly from rain or from a spring.
Immersion in the mikveh was mandatory after contact with the deceased, after certain bodily fluids, after certain natural cycles.
This meant that although they didn't bathe daily with soap like us, The Jews of the first century immersed themselves in clean water with a frequency.
This is a fact that contradicts the popular image of the ancient world as a place where nobody ever washed.
Hair was another topic. Shampoos and conditioners didn't exist.
Hair was occasionally washed with a mixture of wood ashes dissolved in water, which created an alkaline solution similar to a mild lye.
Records from the Talmud mention the use of fine clay and egg yolk as hair cleansers.
Lice were a constant and universal presence.
Fine-toothed combs made of bone or wood, found in excavations at Masada and in the Dead Sea Caves, confirmed that hair delousing was a regular activity.
And the smell! Oh my goodness!
Everyone smelled the same. The concept of offensive body odor is a modern cultural construction that depends on a different standard existing. Without deodorants, without perfumes accessible to the working class, without underwear that was changed daily, body odor in a first-century village was something that simply wasn't.
When everyone smells like sweat, dirt, and wood smoke, nobody notices.
What the wealthier classes did use were aromatic oils. Spikenard, frankincense, myrrh, and balsam oil were luxury products applied to the skin and hair on special occasions. Ancient texts specifically mention a woman anointing a teacher's feet with pure spikenard, an oil that, according to the records, cost the equivalent of a year's salary for a worker. This demonstrates that fragrance was not a daily habit, but an act of enormous social and economic significance. Clothes were washed with a frequency that would surprise many.
Excavations have revealed commercial laundry facilities in cities like Pompeii that used fermented human urine as detergent. The ammonia present in the urine broke down fats and bleached fabrics. The launderers, called fullones in Latin, collected urine from public vessels placed at street corners. Emperor Vespasian went so far as to levy a tax on urine collection, and when his son complained about the dirty origin of the money, he responded,
In Palestine, clothes were washed by beating them against flat stones in streams or in domestic basins, using plant ash as a cleaning agent.
The inner tunic, the ketonet, and the outer cloak, the simla, were frequently the only two garments a working-class person owned. They were washed when possible and worn until they fell apart. Before creating this content, I researched academic sources and verifiable archaeological findings.
Every piece of data I just presented comes from documented excavations, from the Talmud, from the Torah, the Mishnah, from peristological studies.
I didn't make anything up. The documented reality of hygiene in the first century is far more fascinating than any fiction I could imagine.
Subscribe if you want to keep traveling through time with me. Every week, a different era. Every week, a reality that the books left out.
If this knowledge revealed something you didn't know, tell me in the comments. I want to know which part impacted you the most. But before I go, there's something else that deserves attention. Wounds and infections.
Without antibiotics, without disinfecting alcohol, without sterile bandages, any deep cut could become a death sentence.
Records from the Talmud describe treatments that included wine as an antiseptic, olive oil as a liquid bandage, and honey as an antibacterial agent. And this is where modern science has proven these ancient treatments right. Studies published in the Journal of the Royal Society of Medicine have confirmed that honey has real antibacterial properties due to the production of hydrogen peroxide and its low pH.
Wine, with its alcohol content and organic acids, effectively kills bacteria on the surface of a wound.
And olive oil creates a protective barrier that prevents new pathogens from entering. These were not magical remedies.
They were empirical treatments that worked, discovered through thousands of years of observation, long before science could explain why. We also need to talk about the water they drank. Without filtration systems, without chlorine, without any kind of chemical treatment, water was a constant source of disease. Archaeological analysis of sediments in 1st century cisterns in Galilee have found remains of decomposing organic matter, filtered animal waste, and
The inhabitants of these villages drank this water every single day.
this explains why the average life expectancy in 1st century Palestine was approximately 35 years.
Not because people couldn't live longer, but because gastrointestinal infections, dysentery, and waterborne diseases killed an enormous percentage of children. And there's one final detail that connects all of this to something unexpected.
The hygiene of the Jewish people in the 1st century, with their mandatory mikvaot, their purity laws, and their hand-washing rituals before eating, during the Black Death of the 14th century, Jewish communities in Europe had significantly lower mortality rates than their Christian neighbors. Historians like Samuel Cohn have documented that this was largely because Jews maintained hygiene practices derived directly from these laws of the Talmud and the Mishnah that we just described.
Ironically, this lower mortality generated suspicion and accusations of well poisoning, triggering massive persecutions. Hygiene in the year 30 of our era was not what we imagine. It was not simply filth and barbarism. It was a complex system of empirical practices, religious laws with real sanitary foundations and technological limitations.
The mikvaot of the 1st century provided cleaner water than many European bathing systems of the 18th century.
The hand-washing laws of the Mishnah preceded Semmelweis's germ theory by 1800 years.
The next time you turn on the shower and hot water comes out instantly, remember that this is a privilege that fewer than 5 generations of humans have experienced in the entire history of our species.